That's true. And thank you very much, Amy Hollander. And now we have on the phone Julie Hanley from Volunteer Guardianship One-on-One Incorporated. Good afternoon, Julie.
Hi, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Bill Tucker and I are here. And so tell us a little bit about yourself first. Where did you grow up? Let's put it that way.
Oh, where did I grow up? A little town outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I am a New Jersey transplant by way of a couple other places, but originally from the Pittsburgh area.
Oh, okay. And how did you come about getting to volunteer guardianship?
So let's see. Well, I have a long history of working with nonprofits in all sorts of different fields. And about 5 years ago, my mom broke her hip, and what transpired after that was a lot of stress and difficulties for me and my family, and it made me realize that if she didn't have us, like how much more difficult that would have been. So when I learned about volunteer guardianship, I was like, wow, here's an organization that's working with people that have nobody. And I was like, it really spoke to me because of my personal experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of us have had that. My mom was in a nursing home for years, couldn't take care of herself, like after my father died and stuff. So how did Volunteer Guardianship One-on-One come about? When did it start?
So we've been around since 1996, and we started, so we're based here in Hunterdon County, and in 1996 at Hunterdon Medical Center, a woman came into the hospital who did not have full capacity. She had dementia. Mm-hmm. And so, when somebody goes in the hospital, decisions have to be made, medical decisions and discharge decisions, and there was nobody there to make them for her. Name was Doris, and there was nobody there to make them for her. So the attorney at the time, Tony Sarah, one of our founders, turned to his assistant and said, hey, do you think you could be her guardian? And she's like, well, I don't know. What do I know about being a guardian? And he said, well, I'll help you. I'll support you. And that's how the agency was born, was through that particular incident, which has repeated itself many times through the years, people coming to the hospital with nobody.
Right. Yeah, I just have to say, as an aside, Tony, as former prosecutor, Tony Farah, he was surprising with the number of nonprofits that he started. And I mean that as a compliment, and I mean that as acknowledgement to him. It's very impressive what legacy he left behind in the county after leaving prosecutor.
Well, and he's still on our advisory council, and shout out to Susan Hoffman, a former Hunterdon County surrogate. She co-founded the organization with Tony. So the two of them together really made it possible. And then, so many people since then have kept it going, and really we're starting to grow now. So and we're the only ones who do it in the entire state of New Jersey. And honestly, I've been to a national conference, and there just aren't people that do guardianship the way we do it with a one-on-one basis.
How do you do that, Julie? I mean, it's great that you do it. I'm just curious about the mechanics of doing it and how you identify people that are in need of your services.
So our primary referral sources are Adult Protective Services or the hospital, as in our founding story, or nursing homes, long-term care facilities. Like you said, your mom is there, and and there are people there that have nobody, and maybe when they went in, they had full capacity, but as maybe dementia or something takes over, then they lose that. So those are our three primary referral sources. And then, back in one of my many nonprofit jobs, I used to work for Big Brothers and Sisters. So I like to say this to me is like the Big Brothers and Sisters of guardianship. It is just really caring volunteers that are matched one-on-one with people that need it. And it's because of the umbrella of the agency that the court says it's okay, because it is one stranger being matched with another, but
exactly.
We have a lot of oversight. Our board of directors is amazing. They come from a multidisciplinary professions of nursing and social work and legal and financial. So we kind of wrap around our volunteers and give them the support they need to do the work that they do.
Okay, really quickly, I'm really curious about what is the mission or the motto? I mean, you are right. You mentioned the very question in my mind. These are strange people coming into somebody's life. You clearly need to be guided by some sort of code of ethics or something, I would think. I mean, it seems like a tricky relationship to navigate, and it has to be done with great sensitivity. I'm just curious about how you do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the National Guardianship Association is an organization that we use as our, kind of our Bible of ethics. And they publish a code of ethics, like many professions, and as well as principles that guide us in decision making and, and involving, because not everybody has no family. Some of our people do have, siblings or people that for one reason or another can't be the guardian but can still be involved. So, the National Guardianship Association really is, a guide for the way that we do what we do. And again, I think the reputation of our organization, especially here in Hunterdon, speaks for itself. A lot of folks at Adult Protective Services and in the hospital and in the community, they know our guardians. They see our guardians in action, in the nursing homes. And then if there's ever an issue, they call us. We have everything's well documented. We have an online system where, our guardians are accountable to keep notes and upload documents. And, so it's all very transparent in terms of, what they're doing. We're in touch with them regularly. We have 24/7 access if something happens, at nights or weekends as things do. So, yeah.
Okay, we're speaking with Julie Hanley from Volunteer Guardianship One-on-One. You're listening to the Let's Talk program. Bill Tucker and Andy Ken. We have to take a quick minute and a half bottom of the hour break, and we'll be back. Okay, Julie?
Sure.
Bill Tucker and Andy Ken are here, and we are speaking with Julie Hanley from Volunteer Guardianship One-on-One. What's the website where people can find out more about this, Julie?
So you can go to our website, www.volunteerguardianship.org. If you want to learn more. We are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and of course we have a phone number I'm happy to share as well.
Yes, definitely.
908-483-5896.
And that's, I guess, during just business hours, the phone?
So we have a 24-hour number, as I mentioned. So we have that's available to our guardians, or if there's somebody that needs to reach us at short notice, we're always available. That number's on the machine if somebody calls and needs to reach us.
Okay. How many people do you have working there that do this now?
Right. So we're a small grassroots organization. So we, up until a few months ago, we're just 2 staff members. We have since doubled to 4 staff members. So we're not huge. So right now we're managing 16 guardianships. Again, so that's 17 volunteers, because some folks, and this is a model that, anybody out there that might be interested in volunteering, is we have a married couple serving as guardians together, co-guardians. We've had friends that have served as co-guardians before. So we have 17 guardians and 16 guardianships.
Okay.
And then we have volunteers in various process of screening.
Right. Where? What's the area that you reach, that you help people?
So most folks are here in Hunterdon, but thanks to some recent grant activity, and specifically a grant from the state to help us focus on incapacitated people that have been victims of crime in some way, either financially or physically. We've been able to start expanding. We have a small office in Somerville now, and so our reach is Warren, Somerset, Morris, Union, Mercer, Middlesex, and Monmouth counties, along with Hunterdon.
The original place was in Flemington, I believe?
Right, yeah. Our main office, I'm sitting here right now in Flemington, New Jersey, on Main Street, yes. And most of our guardianships remain here in Hunterdon. But we are, like I said, kind of case by case, growing into other areas.
Okay, Julie, I'm curious, for those who are listening to this and thinking, this sounds interesting, and it sounds like something I might be inclined to volunteer for. What are you looking for from your volunteers, and are you looking for a special kind of background, or what do you need?
So we say that anybody who's interested could be a guardian for the most part, of course. I will say if I had to sort of describe our quintessential volunteer, it's somebody who is an older adult who maybe has retired, has some time on their hands, maybe has retired from a field, financial perhaps, corporate U.S. We get folks from that have hospice and medical backgrounds. We have folks that maybe cared for an aging parent who has since passed away, and they're like, wow, I developed so many skills, life skills, in managing this, that I'd like to kind of help somebody else. So, but if you don't have those skills, we try to match people based on, what they're coming in with in terms of what's their comfort level, do they know a lot about medical things? We might be more likely to match them with somebody that had more complex medical issues. Some folks, we serve anybody of any income, so some people have to end up liquidating assets and selling houses, and that can become really complicated. So we, again, look to somebody who's going to have that skill set that's going to be able to do that. So, again, we try, and geographically, of course, we match people based on, not having to go too far to see their person.
Do you have, just curious, Julie, do you have lawyers, not necessarily on staff, but lawyers as volunteers to help you walk through some? You just mentioned, like, in the more complex cases, I could see where a lawyer would be required in terms of guiding things.
Sure. So we have 2 lawyers, attorneys on our board, and then shout out to Bob Shanahan, who has been, a pro bono attorney for us for many years. He represents our guardians in court, and he serves as just, ongoing support for whatever legal issues might come up, throughout the guardianship. And we're currently recruiting for additional legal support for any attorneys that might be out there listening. But yeah, absolutely. Guardianship is a legal thing, and things that come up during the guardianship, there are legal aspects to it. So, we've developed those relationships, in the community. And again, here in Hunterdon, Bob Shanahan has really been, pivotal to our success.
Mm-hmm. Tell us about a typical day now. Someone who is going to go, a volunteer who's working with someone. What kind of things would they would go to that person's house, I guess, and what do they do?
So the first 90 days after guardianship assignment are the busiest. So again, every situation is different. So they might be walking into a situation where they have to make some immediate medical decisions or immediate housing decisions, or or it might be stable. Sometimes we do substitute guardianships where somebody's been under guardianship for a long time, and the volunteer's like, we don't ask them to commit to 10 years. We ask for a year commitment. So maybe they're going to move, or their life has changed, and we have to put in another guardian. So every situation is different, but a lot of times, again, up front, there's a lot of discovery to be made. It's kind of like peeling an onion, I call it, especially if nobody knows anything about this person. Mm-hmm. It's really just trying to find out about who they are and what they have and what are their medical conditions, and getting medical records and that sort of thing. And once the dust settles on those initial months, it really is visiting them, just keeping in touch with whoever's the caregiver, because our guardians aren't caregivers. They're, they're coordinating care and just ensuring, things are going okay. And one thing I always like to mention is that, even though people are under guardianship, what's really important is to maximize their autonomy and their self-determination. So we coach our guardians, and the National Guardianship Association really, talks heavily about, ensuring they're weighing in on things that impact them, and trying to let them have as much a say as possible about what happens to them, and trying to do what they might have done had they had full capacity. But we also serve people with developmental disabilities and severe psychiatric illness. So, it's not just the older population.
So about how many times a week would one of your volunteers go there? And I guess you have to coordinate with an aide that might be there.
We require once a month visitation.
Okay.
So an actual, eyes on the person once a month. So, yeah, and they just, honestly, a lot of our folks are in longer-term care facilities or group homes, just because without family or friends, it's hard for them to live alone in the home. They don't have resources. It's hard you can't set up 24-hour care, Mm-hmm. There's a whole thing with Medicaid and Medicare, so our folks get very well versed in, right. And what they can use to help support their person. So, but some people visit weekly. I like to also talk about my oldest volunteer, Adrienne. She's 85.
Wow.
And she's been a guardian for us for 15 years. She's on her 4th person, and she's stellar. She goes to see her person, every week. And not just to chit-chat, she goes to really check on her. She walked her through having cataract surgery, which wouldn't have been possible had she not been there for her. So, right. Yeah, they're pretty amazing people.
Okay. And I meant to ask you, is there like an age limit? Does someone have to be a certain age? Like, would you let an 18 or 20-year-old do this, or kind of go towards older people? Again, it depends on the person. But usually somebody who is
starting up a career or in college, or, they just usually don't, or a family, have a young family. They just usually don't have the time. But we would talk to them, see what's motivating them, see what their time availability is. We check references, we do background checks, we do an orientation. So we're very, we have a lot of touch points with our volunteers before we accept them. And then when they get involved, when we find somebody to match with them, the court does an additional background check, which includes fingerprinting and a more expansive background check. So, I wouldn't say there's an age. I mean, obviously an adult, but we don't. I think our youngest volunteer right now is in her 30s.
Okay. Anything else you'd like us to know about volunteer guardianship one-on-one?
I did want to tell you all that we are having our big event next week, the Harry Copeland Barn Dance, which is going to be held at Artie's Bar and Grill, which, as many of you might know, is here in Kingwood there. And Harry Copeland was, if anybody may have known him, a really great civic leader and former freeholder, and he passed away in 2014. So we've named the event after him, and we'll be honoring Chris Balin, who is the CEO of the Hunterdon County Chamber of Commerce. So he's really great at helping people build collaborative relationships and involving nonprofits in the business community. And then Kent Davis, who is one of these amazing people that I mentioned. He's been a volunteer. He's on his third person now, and he also served on our board and president of the board. So he's a real, champion for the cause of community guardianship. So we'll be honoring those two folks. We still have tickets. We're looking for donations for the basket raffle, as well as if somebody wants to put an ad in our program event. We'd love to have you.
All righty. And the website once again?
It's www.volunteerguardianship.org.
Okay. Thank you very much, Julie. Julie Hanley from Volunteer Guardianship One-on-One. And all this information will be on the Let's Talk WDVR Facebook page later on this evening. Thank you for speaking with us on Let's Talk today.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Have a good day.
Have a good day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.